There's a reason why for the last 13 years, startups overwhelmingly prefer to build on top of AWS. We have the largest number of services, making it easy for you to take on some of the biggest challenges with the smallest teams. We also have partnerships with the top VCs, accelerators, and incubators around the world, making it easier to secure your next round of funding.
I'm a solution architect with the AWS Head Start program. What we do is we work with startups in the education sector, and we help them build their services on AWS.
So We Power Tech is AWS's diversity and inclusion outreach program. The program is really twofold. One is to increase the number of underrepresented technologists within the industry, and the second is to provide a platform for them to be seen and heard.
If you're wondering how the AWS evangelism team might be able to help your startup, there are many ways. We're technically credible across our entire catalog of products, so we can help you figure out which services might be able to meaningfully impact your business. We also want to help tell your story. So if you're building something cool, we want to know about it and help spread that message to the world. So you might end up on stage at an event like AWS Summit. If you're a startup, you should also definitely check out the AWS Lofts. These are event spaces that are free to anyone with an AWS account. And you can treat them like co-working spaces, but the awesome thing about them is that we also have people like technical evangelists like myself, solutions architects that come and give hands-on technical workshops and sessions to help you learn how to more effectively utilize the AWS products and platforms that you're already building on top of.
We are a dedicated team of people that love startups, that we just want to come and help you with whatever we can, whether it be technical or business focused. We are here to help guide you and make sure that you do have a say in what's going on. We do get your feedback. We do bring that feedback to the service teams. That is what we're here for.
Well, everyone should get muted now, of course. Welcome again to the this workshop series organized by Startup Grind in partnership with Amazon Web Services to give hands-on training to the cohorts of the Global HULT Prize competition, cohorts from the Untitled Chapter. And we are also organizing this in partnership with the Rural Nigeria Hub. Today we have a very, very big giant in the house who is the guest speaker for today's event. The person of Chidi Nwaogu, who is a serial tech entrepreneur, and this is very important for every one of us. He's a serial tech entrepreneur, an entrepreneur. He is also the co-founder and CEO of Publiseer, a digital publisher that has helped over 6,000 underserved African creatives living in low-income and disadvantaged communities to earn over $1 in revenue, and has been described by Kobini as one of the largest digital publishers in Africa, and identified by IFC as one of the startups that could speed up innovation in Africa. He is also the co-founder of Savvy, a global fellowship program that has equipped over 2,000 passionate and brilliant young individuals from over 100 countries. Without necessary knowledge and skill that they need to start their own impact-driven business in a post-COVID era and succeed as social entrepreneurs. Mr. Nwaogu is the winner of the Migration Entrepreneurship Prize 2020, the Africa 35 Award 2019 for Entrepreneurship, the Young Leaders Award 2019 for Media and Entertainment, and the Beast Business Excellence Award 2019. He is an Acumen Fellow 2020 West Africa, Alibaba E-Founders Fellow 2020 China, IDEX Global Fellow 2020 at India, Westerwell Fellow 2019 at Germany, Halcyon Incubator Fellow 2019 at Washington DC, African PLP Fellow 2019 at Cairo, Egypt, and Yunus and Youth Global Fellow 2019 in New York. So let's please give a resounding welcome to this big giant in the house. Chidi, you're welcome, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Hello?
I can't hear you, sir.
Sorry, I'm always on mute. I don't know why. I think that I can hear background music out of it. So I'll try and make this conversation between us very informal. So I wouldn't just want you guys to feel like you are in like you're in a classroom. to just try and make you guys feel more like you're having a conversation with someone. We're talking about, I'm guessing that you guys have started businesses, or maybe tech businesses, tech-enabled businesses, whatever. You guys have a business that you're incubating and you're trying to see it grow. Now you're wondering, how can I do it? It's very easy. I always tell people, it's as long as you spend your mind or you focus on the most important things. And so I'll be talking to you about how to create a thriving tech-enabled business, and it's just with little to no funding. That means your own personal savings, and still make it profitable and innovative at the same time. So the first point, it's very generic, but it's very important, and it's that you need to spend less. So no matter what you do, make sure that you spend money. You spend less money. Don't throw money at everything. And you might ask, how can I do this? Yeah, so I'll give you 4 points on how to spend less money on your business. The first one is that try to use a free or cheap hosting platform. So I'm guessing you want to get a website, or you want to get just an online presence, and maybe you just want to have your name.com. But then you're wondering, how can I get a web hosting? It's too expensive. There are a lot of them out there that are quite cheap or free. So there is this platform called Netlify. It was once called BitBalloon, and there's another one called MontroHost. If you look at everything, you realize that they are free and cheap platforms, that you can host your website, your platforms, without having to break the bank. And if you want to spend money, just go for the least plan. For example, when you go to a web hosting platform, you always see the least plan all the time. You start from there. Then when you realize that maybe the needs of your customers is exceeding that current plan, then you can move to the next plan. And you realize that during that period when the needs has begun to exceed that of of your target customers, you're simultaneously generating revenue that will help you to be able to transition to the next plan. So as much as possible, do not spend so much money on web hosting. Try and limit your cost on web hosting. I think MontroHost takes $150 for every place. So that means you can pay for with about 100,000 naira. You can pay for 6 years. And that's very good if you're just starting out. And I think that is also includes unlimited and storage, so you can actually use that for your business while starting out. And when you begin to make enough money, then you can move to more dedicated servers. And then the next one is that you should try and get a technical co-founder. This is very important because I see a lot of people saying, I want to hire a tech company in India, I want to hire a tech company in China, or I want to hire some software developer in Pakistan to help me build my MVP. And that's literally the worst thing you can do as a tech founder. And the reason why I would say is the worst thing to do is because usually the first product that you create is not often the right product. It might be close to the right product. However, you realize that your target customers have something to say. They have feedback. They can say, oh, I don't like the user experience. I think this should be here and that should be here. I think this should be taken out and I think this should be added in. And if you're always that kind of person, that you hire a software developer from Pakistan or India or China, or to build your platform, and you pay them per the hour or per the workload, you realize that you would have to go back to pay them all over again to be able to implement the feedback of your target customers. And you realize that this will make you very resistant to your customer feedback, because you know that for every customer feedback, you're always constantly spending a lot of money, and that will make you very resistant to their feedback. So instead of having to build your MVP or constantly building your product, by having to pay a software developer to do it, why don't you get a technical co-founder? This is like a CTO, a chief technology officer, a chief technical officer, whatever you call it. But this should be more like a co-founder, someone who has equity in the business, that vests over a period of time. Now, this person can decide to build your MVP for 30% of the company. So this means that they feel part of the growth. Once the business is growing, they are part of the growth. So that means that they are constantly trying to make the product better, because they know if I make the product better, it increases our customer activation, customer retention, it just increases customer satisfaction, and at the same time increases revenue. And that means revenue for himself or herself as well. So it's always very useful to get a technical co-founder. I remember while I was a student, I was still a student at the University of Lagos. This was sometime, I think this was like 10 years ago. So there was this guy that wanted to build a platform. And every time he wanted to build a platform, he always comes to me. And when he comes to me, I will be the person that we have to bill him. I always bill him a lot of money. And I bill him so much money to a point that constantly I realized that he had to shut down the platform, because each time he wanted to implement something, he had to meet me, and I had to do it. And it was just crazy, because I think at the end of the day, for him to make profit would be very difficult, because I'm constantly, back then I remember billing him just something that took me 4 hours to do. I billed him about 20,000 naira, and I was a student. He was also a student, and it was crazy because I knew it was expensive for him, but that was what I valued my time for. And instead of I believe that the right thing he should have done is sell me on the dream and tell me, okay, this is what I'm building, and this is how it's going to be, how big it's going to be. Convince me to be part of the team and be part of the co-founder, and then make me, and then give me a share in the company, and then I'll build all these things at no charge just for sharing the equity, right? So you'd realize that at the end of the day, that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I think essentially you need to.
Okay, sorry.
Then the next thing to do is to always use organic advertising methods. So if you're trying to make, you're trying to advertise, I'm not saying that paid advertising or, PPC advertising isn't good. It's actually amazing, but it's not for the stage you are in right now. You're trying to test waters, you're trying to test markets, you're trying to understand if what you're doing is something you're going to do for a long time. And, it doesn't really make much sense to throw money at everything, including advertising and marketing. So why don't you use an alternative organic route? And the easiest, some of social media advertising. So I remember when I started Publiseer, I wanted to get my first customers. And so I had to go, because I was trying to test the feasibility of what I was building and how, is this thing scalable? If it, and if it's scalable, how much, do I make per every customer that I'm able to acquire? And so I didn't want to go through the route of having to pay for advertising, so I had to use organic Facebook advertising. And this is what I did. I know that my platform is for writers and musicians. So I had to go to Facebook and I searched for writers, and then I clicked groups. So I saw all the groups on Facebook that, that had the word writers, or writer in it. So that means that people in this group are all writers, and these are my target customers. So I selected those that had a substantial amount of members, and then I requested to join the groups. I joined groups for writers, I joined groups for musicians. And when I came in there, I did not want to throw my link or my URL to them. That's funny, and people would really frown on this kind of advertising, or you just come in here to drop your link, So what I did was very simple. I told them I was about to start a business, and this is what the business was all about. The business is going to help them do this, do that, do this, do that, do this. And that any of them that's interested, in such offer, they should just say hello, in the comment section, and I'll reach out to them. And that, and if they also thought there was any additional service that I did not include that they would find useful, they should also, let me know about it. And then I had a lot of feedback. The feedback was amazing. I remember getting over, a lot of people reaching out to me, and I had over 200 emails of customers, and I hadn't even built the product yet. And so I was like, wow. So, it's just was more like a validation that, okay, this thing is actually something that people really want. And so I can go ahead, building it. So it's very important that before you start building something, you try to validate the market. And you don't have to break the bank validating the market. Your customers are everywhere. So mine, I had to know, okay, I'm looking for writers, I'm looking for musicians. These people are on Facebook constantly interacting with themselves, and they've created, subgroups on Facebook to be able to do that. So I had to reach out to them that way to get them. And when I launched, I sent an email to all of them and said, hey guys, I've launched. And then I realized, they started using the product. Within the first 2 weeks, I had over 100 customers already on the platform, using the platform. And I also did this, was that every friend that I knew that was a writer and every friend that I knew that was a musician, I also reached out to them. I called them on the phone and said, hello guys, are you still writing? He said, yeah, I'm writing. I said, good, because I started a platform for writers and I think you're gonna find it interesting. Are you still singing? Oh, I heard that you just dropped a new single. Yeah, can you send it over to me? Let me listen to it. I think I can help you, make money out of it. That was what I kept doing. I kept reaching out to people, and I didn't have to break the bank. And that was how I was able to get people to first use the platform. And, it became profitable very easily because I didn't have to spend so much money to do it. And then the next one is that you should try and, do not get a private office. I always see people, when they start a business, they want to get those fancy office things. They want to get those fancy business things. They want to look fancy. They want to look good. So they rent an office space, a private office space for them and their team, get tables and chairs, just try and make it look cozy and just make them feel like, oh, I'm a startup founder. The funny thing is that the real world don't care about that. Facebook was created in a dorm room. Apple was created in a garage. Nobody really cares where you're building all these things from, as long as it's amazing. What people care about is what they can do with your product. And if you're building your product from a mansion, but they cannot do anything with it, trust me, they're not going to use it. Nobody has that sentimental attachment to where you build your product from, but rather what your product can do for them. So, instead of having to think about spending so much money getting a private office, why don't you work from a co-working space? So there are a lot of co-working space out there. We have CC Hub, we have Workstation, we have Capital Square. Like, there are a lot of them, and this is just Lagos alone. And I know that there are a lot of them in other states. And you can just always reach out. Go to these places. You see other tech founders, other startup founders. They're also using this co-working space. I remember when I went to SeedStar's co-working space in Lekki, and I met other startup founders there, and I was able to interact with them and just get to know what they do, and and they got to know what I do, and we were able. I met people there that I could actually forge partnership with. I met people there that could actually be my customer. So for example, maybe you're doing a B2B business. Working from a co-working space is amazing because you create a community of people, that could actually become your customers because they are also businesses as well. So instead of having to isolate yourself in a private office, why don't you just, utilize the community of all these co-working spaces and, work out of there. Then the next thing to do is that make sure that you're solving a real problem. Now, there's a difference between real problem and fake problem. I've seen so many founders having fake problem. Now, I put the fake in quote because the problem does not really exist. I think maybe it exists in the mind. So, for example, you tell me that you're trying to create a platform where I can send money to my friend in the US. It's not really a problem because I can actually do that right now, right? I can actually, use Western Union to send money to people outside, from Nigeria outside, and vice versa, right? So it's already solved, right? And if you're trying to solve that problem again, there's a very huge chance that you're not going to really get anything out of it because people have adequately solved the problem. So make sure that the problem you're solving really exists and there's a dear need for it, right? Do not just solve problem because, or maybe, I built an amazing application. It works on AI, it works with ML, it works with blockchain. There's this fancy buzzwords in it. Trust me, people don't really care how your product was built. They only care about what your product can do. So if your product uses blockchain and everything, but however, when they use it, they really can't fathom what they can achieve with it. It does not give them value. They're not going to really use it. So make sure that whatever you're solving is a real problem. And How would you know it's a real problem? Now, are you meeting to the wants or the needs of the target customer? Now, let me explain to you. There's difference between wants and needs. Needs is something I can't do without. Things I really need that, I need it on a daily basis, right? But then wants is just mere. It's just mere desire. Things I just desire. And people can do without wants, right? So make sure that as your startup founder, you don't have a gold mine under your bed. So you make sure that you're solving a need so that people reach out to you, people find you. Because when you're solving wants, you have to throw a lot of money on advertising. So make sure that you first get that problem statement properly. You understand what your problem is, and then you solve the problem. Because there's a difference between falling in love with the solution. Make sure that as a founder, you fall in love with the problem and not the solution. You fall in love with the problem that you've identified and you're solving, and not the solution that you're building. Because the moment you're in love with the solution you're building, you realize that you're very resistant to change. And there's in startup, in entrepreneurship, you realize that there has to be constant, they can have to be constant iteration, and there could even be a total pivot. I know a friend who started a platform, that helps people, get health care. And eventually he had to change it to insurance because he realized that, what the problem he was solving was not big enough. So he had to just pivot. So you realize that a lot of people are like that. For example, Slack. Slack was created by a game development company. So they created a video game development company, and they realized that the video game development company was not really going far, and they had to shut down the company. Slack was what they used. They created Slack in the company for internal communication, just communication between themselves. And then, when they had to shut down the company, they said to themselves, maybe we can just try and see if we can commercialize this, our internal communication system. And that's how Slack was born, right? So you realize that it was a complete pivot. Like, they completely changed direction from a video game development company to a communications company. So you realize that, so as a startup founder, you might have to see, you might see yourself in that kind of situation. MySpace was a social network. Now it's a music network, right? Friendstar was a social network. Now it's a gaming network. You realize that people are constantly pivoting. When they realize that, okay, what I'm doing right now, I don't think it's big enough, and I think I need to change courses. So how can you know that you're really solving the problem? Try to understand what are the current hacks. Now, what do I mean by current hacks? Current hacks are the current ways in which people are currently solving that problem. So if a problem really exists, people would have found a way to solve it. Now, because, but the way they are currently solving it an ideal, inaccurate. It might be very time consuming, but they would have found a way to solve it, even if it's not perfect, So if there is no current way in which people are solving that problem that you've identified, then that problem does not exist, trust me. Because if not, people would have found a way to be able to solve that problem, even if they didn't do it completely. So ask yourself, what's the current hack? And if there's a current hack, you're a step further. That means, okay, people are currently trying to solve this problem, right? That means the problem exists. And ask yourself, what's the current hack? Is it a nightmare? When people do, try to solve this problem, is it so terrible for them? Are they so exhausted? Are they so tired? If it's a nightmare to them, then that means and you can actually make it less than a nightmare to them, then you're on the right way. That means you've definitely found a gold mine. Then, ask yourself, who are your target customers? You need to know your target customers very well, because if you do not know who you're building a product for, then you cannot get to them. Like there's always the saying that if you don't know where you're going to, you never get there, right? So knowing where you're going to is, that means that you're already halfway there because you already know the direction and your destination. But then you're building a product, and when I ask you, who are your target customers? You say everybody. No, not everybody. Facebook, also have target customers. Everybody is not Facebook target customer. Facebook's target customers are people that are interested, to keep in touch with friends and family, people that they already know, but also online, people that are very busy and they want to constantly meet, to stay in touch with family and friends, without having to physically meet them, But if I'm the kind of person that I believe in physical touch, I believe in physical interaction, then Facebook is not for me, because Facebook is virtual interaction, and I'm this kind of person. I want to feel you, I want to touch you, then Facebook is not for me, right? So there's so many friends I know that are not on Facebook. So many friends I know that are not even on social media. So, don't say, oh, everybody. Everybody's not your target customer. Anybody is nobody, right? So make sure that you know who your target customers are. Like, very intricate details about them. Their age range, their gender, if it's gender specific, their location, what kind of people find this, important. You just know, like, even to their literacy level, how educated they are. For example, if you're building an app or you're building a solution for farmers and you're building another solution for PhD students or PhD candidates, now, do you realize that your solution is going to look different? Now, the reason why is because farmers are generally less educated, right? And they live in rural areas. And these rural areas have very little to no access to, into internet, sometimes even electricity, right? And so you realize that if you're trying to build a solution for them, you have to make a solution that can work on a feature phone, because most of them do not have smartphones. They use feature phones, right? So you can have to use short codes, USSD short codes like *737#, right? That can really work. And as simple as that is it's still an amazing solution, because according to GT Bank, *737# produced several billions of naira, in transaction, in just last year. So that means that people constantly use, these short codes rather than a mobile app. So don't feel like you need to create a mobile app. Why are you creating a mobile app for a farmer? He's not going to use it. He does not have a smartphone to use it. He does not have the intellect to use it or to appreciate it. He does not have the internet to access it, and you're just literally using the wrong method. So, but then if you're trying to use you're trying to create a platform for doctorate students, then you realize that, yeah, you can then use a smartphone, because these people are really, really advanced people. They have access to internet because they're constantly researching, right? So you realize that your target customers tell you the kind of product to build. You just don't go build things like because you feel it's fancy and so you want to build it. Same thing like Toyota and Ferrari. Toyota, they know their target customers, middle income, earners. Then Ferrari know their target customers, high income earners, elite people who have a lot of money to spend, and Toyota wouldn't say, oh, because Ferrari caters for the high income people, I want to cater for the high income people. No, Toyota actually created Lexus and as a way to be able to cater for higher income people, but not to the extent of Ferrari or Lamborghini and stuff like that. So, everybody have to understand their target customers and you stick to it. Then before you even get into a business, ask yourself one question. Now, when I say how big is the opportunity, you have to know if your market is growing or not. For example, a business, if, for example, maybe you're in the printing industry in Nigeria, and maybe the printing industry is valued at about, let's say, 2 billion naira, right? Now, you need to understand how has the printing industry in Nigeria grown. 2 billion naira already means it's a big enough market. However, the question you should ask yourself is it growing or is it dying? Because I've seen a very big market like 2 billion dying. Now, how can you know if a business is dying or a market is dying? For example, in 2015, in 2017, yeah, I think I can get a lot of feedback. There's a lot of negative.
Kingsley, if you're able to, please mute yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's fine. Yeah, Kingsley. The other Kingsley is speaking. Can you please? Awesome. Yeah. So, for example, let's imagine that your business, your market in 2015 to 2017 grew by $1 billion. But then in 2017 to 2019, the same 2-year span, it grew by 500 million. Now it's still growing, mind you, but it's dying. That means that the growth is decelerating. It's slowing down, and that means some days it will stop growing and and begin to shrink until it comes to a big crunch, right? So you should understand, even if my market is growing, is it growing in an accelerated rate? Is it moving faster? Is the growth increasing? That means that you're in a big enough and a faster growing market. And then you should also ask yourself a very important question: how will you make money? You should, no matter how amazing the product you've built is, you should constantly think about how you're going to make money. Now, you should think about how you're going to make money from day one. How am I going to make money from this thing? There's so many ways of making money, so many models. We have the commission model, we have the subscription model, we have, there's so many models, and we even have the advertising model. Whichever the case is, make sure that you know the strengths of your target customers to be able to know which model fits them. Canva uses subscription model, and Google uses advertising model, right? And Printivo in Nigeria uses, or Vistaprint use commission model. So you see all these things, people know the different model. So you should know your type of model, and you should try as much as possible to leverage it. Then the next thing I'll talk about is to know your numbers. Now, knowing your numbers is so important, because when you're trying to raise money from a VC, you're trying to raise money from an angel investor, they'll always ask for your numbers. Now, this is your numbers are your metrics, right? Especially because now you guys are in post MVP. Someone said, I was speaking to someone earlier, and he said that they already have 2 MVPs. That means they already have two products. That means you're in post, you're post product. Maybe you're still in pre-revenue, but you're still post product. Now, while it's good to know your numbers, is because your numbers give your investors a clear understanding of how good your business is doing and how good it can do in the future. It also gives you an understanding of how good your business is, and if it's capable of making revenue or making profit. Now, what are the kind of numbers do you have to know? The first one is what is called your CAC. CAC is an acronym for customer acquisition cost. Now, your customer acquisition cost is what it costs you to acquire a single customer. So how can you calculate that? Maybe, for example, you spend 5,000 naira on a Facebook campaign, and you got 10 customers. So 5,000 divided by 10, that's 500 naira. So your customer acquisition cost is 500 naira, right? But usually CAC is often put in dollars. So maybe you can say $1 and some few changes, right? So your CAC is very important to know what your CAC is, to be able to tell yourself, okay, this is how much I acquired the customer, and you have to definitely make more money than that, to be able to become profitable, right? So then that takes us to what they call customer lifetime value. Some people call it CLV, or some people call it LTV, but whichever, it means customer lifetime value. And what is the customer lifetime value? This is the money that the customer gives to you, during their entire time with you. So, for example, if a customer stays with your business for a minimum of 2 years, that means that you calculate your customer lifetime value with 2 years. And that means how much they give you every month. If they give you every month 100 naira, 100 times 48, then you have 4,800. So your LTV is 4,800, while your CAC is 500. That means that you're making your almost times profitable, because you're making 10 times as much as you acquired the customer. So it's good to know all this figure. Also, you need to know what they call your burn rate. Now, what's your burn rate? Burn rate is the speed at which you're eating into your cash, or you're burning into the available cash that you have. For example, your business have in the bank, let's say 50,000 naira, right? And your business requires 10,000 naira every month to be able to survive.
Sir.
Then your
please, I didn't get what you're talking about now. After the customer lifetime value, I didn't get the next point. Please, can you go back on that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I was talking about the burn rate, BURN, burn rate. So your burn rate is typically the rate in which you're burning into or eating into cash that you have available. For example, your business have 50,000 naira in the bank. That's the amount of money that your business has. And then you spend 10,000 naira every month, for your business to stay alive. That means that, your burn rate is 10,000 naira. So it's how much your business is how much you're spending, or how much your business is spending every month, right? So that's what your burn rate is. If an investor asks you, what's your burn rate? They're typically trying to know how much your business spends every month to stay alive. And that takes us to what they call runway, business runway. Now, what's your runway? Your runway is typically leans heavily on your burn rate and the amount of money in the bank. So if you have, like I said, 50,000 naira in the bank, and you have 10,000 naira, and you're spending 10,000 naira every month, which is your burn rate, then your runway is 50,000 naira divided by 100,000, 10,000, which is 5 months. That means that your business only has 5 months to stay alive if, all things being equal, you do not make any extra revenue. So, for example, your business has 100,000 naira in the bank, right? And you're spending 20,000 naira every month to stay alive. Now, if all things being equal, you don't make any single money, in the next 5 months, your business only has 5 months to stay alive. So that's what your runway is. So when an investor asks you, what's your runway? What's your current runway? They're trying to know how much you have in the bank divided by how much you currently spend every month. They just want to know how long your business has to stay alive. And if your business has a very short runway, that means you're desperate. That means you desperately need money. Maybe your business only has 2 months to live. So that means, this person desperately needs money. And so when you're negotiating for equity, or investment, then you realize that you're not negotiating from a point of strength, because right now they know you're desperate. But if your business runway is as high as 24 months, that means you have a lot of money in the bank and you're not spending as much. You're not eating into much. You're not eating into the cash so much. Then you can negotiate from a point of strength, because you still have enough time before you need to raise money. Then that takes us to what they call churn rate. So churn rate is churn, C-U-R-N, no, C-H-U-R-N. So your churn rate is typically the rate in which customers leave your platform or customers leave your business. So if, for example, you say my churn rate is 10%, that means that 10% of your customers leave your business every month. And the very acceptable one, for investors is 4%. That means 4% of your customers leave your business every month. They might overlook it, but when it's more than 4% and it starts pushing as high as 7%, they become worried. That means that you're losing a lot of customers and that you need to, do enough, to retain them. Yeah. Then I'm almost coming to an end. Okay, so the next one is that you should make sure you make money from day one. Even if you're not making money from day one, make sure that, from the very first day in which you start your business, you already have an idea of how you want to make money, because you're creating a business. And the idea of business is to create an ecosystem, a self-sustaining ecosystem, a system that feeds back into itself, not a system in which you're constantly putting money into the business. No. Your business, you have to put, maybe you put 10,000 naira into or 100,000 naira into the business. You hope that it begins to feed itself, and that you don't have to constantly put money into it. It begins to feed itself until, it becomes that, 100,000 naira becomes 100 million naira. So that's how, so make sure that you're making money from the very first day. And then evaluate your expenses. Try to know where money is going in and out of. Do not spend too much on what's not important. Make sure that, when you want to spend money, it's very important, it's very needed. And don't do things because other people are doing it. You want to wear a branded t-shirt of your business because you believe it's cool. It's not really cool, and how many times have you seen Bill Gates wear a shirt, branded Microsoft? It's not really, because Mark Zuckerberg wears a Facebook t-shirt does not mean Bill Gates should do the same thing. Everybody are different. Everybody have their own different style, and not because of somebody has a private office and or maybe has branded merchandise all around his office that you believe you should do the same thing too, or has a private car for the business, branded the business. You don't have to force yourself to do the things that other people are doing. Ask yourself the question: what does my business need, and not what does my business want? What your business needs is what it needs to survive, and then make sure you get all those important things. And do not just try to, trying to impress people. It's a business and not show business. Show business is music. You're not in show business, you're in business. So you have to understand the difference and, and not try to show off and, try to make people, impressed. Yeah. So I'll just say, go build that business of yours. I think I've spent 40 minutes speaking. Now I'm open to questions.
Okay, thanks a lot, sir. Any questions?
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, sure.
I was thinking, like, when you pitching out your idea and you are money conscious, your sponsors might see you as maybe you are greedy or something. That I was thinking initially. Because if I come from making money point of view, you might think I'm not trying to render services. I'm just here to just pack on the money, and maybe probably run away or something. So how have I pitch my idea without, emphasizing more on the money making and talk about the problem solving?
Yeah. So usually when you're pitching your business, the first slide is your problem statement, right? The last slide is usually what you're asking for. So make sure that during that when you're talking about your problem statement, your solution, your competitive edge, your go-to-market, that you try to make yourself look like a savior. You try to make them understand that you're saving people, you're creating value, you're Jesus Christ. That's the idea you're trying to create, right? That if they don't put money into you, there, somebody somewhere is going to die. You have to make sure that you create that kind of analysis in their brain. It's more like being a good salesman, right? And then at the end of the day, you can tell them, okay, you see all these amazing things I've spoken about. I need $500,000 to be able to achieve it, and then I'm ready to give you 20% of that business. But when you're starting, your pitch, do not tell them that you're all about money. There's also a part in your pitch called business model. How you make money. Every investor wants to see that. Every investor wants to see your unit economics as well. They want to know that that this is also a business. But at the same time, I remember the first investor I had, something he said to me. He said the reason why he invested in me was because he saw an article online that said that Publiseer is helping African creatives. And when he saw the word helping, it caught his attention. Yeah, as much as we are helping them, they're also helping us too. They're helping us make money for them and also for the company. But when you're talking about your business, you talk about it one-sided. Okay, I'm also helping them. Just talk about how much you're helping them. It's business, right? So don't talk about how you started the company because you want to make money. No, everybody knows that you started the business because you want to make money. That's why you're a business person. But then when you're talking about the story why you started the company, you can give them a very passionate story. There's this friend of mine that started a platform that helps, that uses drone to deliver blood from blood banks to remote villages. And when he gave his speech, it was so amazing because the story he told, I was already sold. I was competing with him for the funding, but I was like, okay. I was like, I wouldn't feel bad if the investor gave him all the money because his story was so amazing. He had to explain to the investors that, he lost his sister because she, after childbirth, she lost a lot of blood and she needed blood to survive. But then the next, where the closest place to get blood was about 2 hours away, and she could only survive for the next 45 minutes. And so before they could go there and get the blood and back, she was dead. And so he wants to create a platform where that will never happen to anybody, where nobody will ever feel that sense of loss because of how a blood bank is. And so he wants to use drone, create a platform that does, blood delivery using airspace, And so trust me, if you're an investor, you want to give that guy your money, So we still know he's going to definitely deliver the blood, by collecting money, right? But the reason or the nobleness in what he's doing is amazing. So that's what you should do as an entrepreneur. Sell them into why. Let them create that empathy. Let them create that empathy that they fall in love with what you're doing. But deep down, okay, I just still want my money. You know what you're there for, right? But
all right, thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay, so someone has a question in the chat. He said, sir, as a newbie to coding, which coding language would you recommend I learn? Do I have to learn more than one language?
Yeah, so sometimes you might have to learn more than one language. If you're trying to learn PHP, then you need to learn HTML and JavaScript. But if I'm to really tell you, if I'm to be biased, I'll tell you to learn React. Now, the reason why I'll say learn React is it's more like a front and back end language. That means you can use it more like a full stack language. You can use it to create, it's literally, you can use it to create anything, front and back end. But then if you're learning something like you're learning PHP alone, PHP is a back-end server-side language. It's only for back-end. Then you need to have to learn another front-end language, which is quite difficult to learn both. So React sometimes, works both front and back. So I'll tell you to learn React if you're a lazy person like
Okay,
me.
so he said, how would he okay, oh, okay,
Learn
yeah,
React.
how,
Learn
like
React.
the React, is it something like, could you give a spelling? So
React. Let me write that in the chat. React.js. It was created by
okay.
Facebook. Just Google it and then you'll be able to
Okay,
learn.
so this event is actually sponsored by AWS. Is organized in partnership with AWS. So we are, after the whole event, we're going to be giving them $1,000 free credits of AWS. Could you give some tips on how they could use AWS credits?
Yeah, so AWS credit is more like Google credit or Google Cloud credit. I'm not supposed to be talking about Google because obviously it's an
Yeah.
AWS thing.
Excuse
So
me, sir. Excuse me, sir, please. I'm finding it very catch up with you. You're talking very, very fast. Like very, very I don't know. Please, I beg you, take it easy so that we'll be able to get your words. Thank you. Thank you.
okay, yeah. I'm sorry. Okay, so AWS is more like it helps you to do cloud computing. That means you can store everything in the cloud. You can do everything in the cloud. You do not have to have servers, dedicated servers. So AWS is very good for you when you're starting out because you can literally do anything. You can use it to send mails. You can use it to host. You can do anything literally. It depends on on your needs. AWS is by Amazon, and it's conflicting to Google. But I am not an AWS person. I will not tell you that you should use AWS or use Google Cloud. I wouldn't tell you. But if you get a free $1,000 AWS, I would tell you definitely use AWS. Because it's free money,
Yeah.
right?
So, but what apart from web hosting, which could be done with it, I believe. What else could they? You mentioned sending mails. How, and then what other thing could be done using the AWS?
Yeah, so I do not use AWS, but I had a CTO who did that, and I think he literally did a lot of things, with it, but I can't really remember exactly what he
Okay.
did. But I know he used it for hosting. He used it for, I think, email sending. He did it, but I cannot really tell every other thing he did with it. But also because we moved from AWS, and we used Google because we got Google credits also from Google, and so we're able to do the same thing. So it's literally the
Yeah.
same thing, but one is owned by
Yeah.
Amazon and on
So so the cloud. So the question specifically is this cloud computing. What and what could be done on it? Because they've asked a whole lot of questions. What could they use it for? I know specifically website hosting. I saw some services there like AI. I don't know if it's like machine learning or is it like for those that want to do coding, or is there anything of that sort on AWS? I'm really very novice at this anyway.
Yeah. So AWS does not mean that they are going to help you code it. They're going to help you host your code, right? It's just more like a cloud. So cloud hosting, cloud computing means you're dropping all your baggages there, right? Everything you have here, you're dropping it there. Just like you having Google Photos, right? And then you're dropping all your Google Photos, all your photos on Google Photos. It's just a storage for you, right? It's not like they are going to just you just speak to AWS and they just create the platform for you. Now you have to have everything all done, and then you create it.
So you said it's React that we should those that the person I requested for coding, you actually recommended React. React
React
JS.
for me, React JS for me. We have Angular, we have Vue.js. The different types of JS, but we even have Elements. But I would say React for me. But everybody has different. If you're trying to learn data science, I'll say Python, right? Everybody has different, and generally Python is the easiest language to learn because you do not need any semicolon to end. Usually almost all languages, you need to end it to semicolon, more like the way you end a sentence full stop, you know. So, but Python is very lenient. You don't have to even end it. Just go to the next line and you move on again. So that's why a lot of people like Python, because there's no too much friction or restriction to the structure. So depends on what you want. But I won't say you should take it from me. But I'll tell you to go to this website, w3schools.com, and you can learn a couple of languages there for free.
It's a very interactive platform. Sorry.
I just put it in the chat. It's called w3schools.com.
Okay.
And then you can learn whatever language you can learn. React there. You can learn. Yeah, sure.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, sure. Ask a question.
Okay. You explained the AWS, but my network was bad, so I wasn't really hearing anything. But you said something about hosting. That's the last one I heard. Is it that if I have a platform online, I can use the 1,000 AWS credit to host my platform? I don't understand. Like, to get a domain name, I'm not really sure, because I'm using a free hosting for my platform, for my blog. So I'm trying to transfer to a new domain, and it's going to cost me a lot of money. Can I use the AWS money to, buy a domain name and host it?
So no, you cannot use it to buy domain name. So AWS is more like a cloud service platform. It offers a lot of things. It offers database storage, right? It offers content delivery. That's what I spoke about, emails, right? And a couple of functionalities, but it does not offer domain name. I wouldn't say it offers domain name, but it can help you to host dynamic websites. It can help you to, to manage your database, but maybe to deliver things, maybe like bulk emails to your customers. But it in no way helps you buy domain name.
Sorry,
Okay.
sir, a request. Hello?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I don't know if you would, I don't know, I think you were copying all these things from a book. I was seeing you looking, I don't know whether it was from a book. So if you can send us a picture of that book, so like with yours, for summary purposes.
Okay, let me show you. So this is my iPad, and I have my slide deck on it. So it's written by
slide, sir.
Yeah, I would have to. Okay, I would send it to Udeka at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Answer. Can you give us your LinkedIn account so we could get the connection?
Okay, LinkedIn account. I'm posting the LinkedIn in the chat.
Okay.
But if you
Thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions?
Yes, I want to ask a question. You talked about 3 models of making money off your business: subscription, advertising, and commission. So I believe that the kind of model you choose depends on the kind of business or platform you're running. So someone who is doing a blog, I don't know, between advertising and subscription, which one would you advise the person to go for?
Yeah, it depends on what part of your business or what stage your business your blog is in. For example, when you're starting out, you can use Google AdSense, right? You can use Taboola to be able to run advertising, third-party adverts, right, to your customers. That makes a lot of sense at that moment. But maybe after your blog is getting a little more popular and having more traction, more like Forbes, right? Then you can do subscription where people pay for premium content, But when you're starting out, I wouldn't say you should start with subscription, because people don't really know who you are. People don't really know how authentic or how original your content is and how useful it is to them. So using advertising might be the easiest way, route then. But then, once you've gotten that name like Linda AKG, you can say, okay, I want to make a couple of content that is premium, and then people would have to subscribe to, subscribe to it to be able to read those premium contents.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. I forgot to ask this one.
Any
I
more
heard you say
questions?
that the first product you
So
create is usually not the best product. Please, there's space at my chest right now. Like explain that point very well, because I mean, after putting in so much effort, so much brain work, and at the end of the day you realize that the first product is not the best. How do you go from there? Like how do you recover from that?
Yeah, entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is not easy. It's you're constantly trying to impress the customer, right? And so the first product you create might usually is often never the right product or the best. And so you might have to tweak it a little bit. You might have to add a couple of things to it. You might have to remove a couple of things from it. When that's why some people should, have you ever heard about beta testing? When you do beta testing. Now, beta testing is when you just launch your product to a small group of people, just so that they can test it and tell you what they think, and then you use those feedback from them to improve the product before you launch it to the public. So it's very don't feel bad when your customers say, I don't like your product. They're not telling you out of spite. They're just trying to help you improve the product. And when you hear things like that, it means that you have to work on your product. So ask them for more details. Like, for example, okay, you don't like the product. What exactly don't you like? Tell me exactly what you don't like and what you'd like to see in the future. And then you put it all together, and then you try and get enough feedback from a lot of people, and then you see the feedback that really aligns, that pops up in most of the customer. When most customers are talking, the feedback that pops up, more often, the most frequent feedback, and then you implement those, because that means that it's held by a lot of people. But it's okay, if your first product, you even have to even change it completely. A lot of people have to do that, like this, delete it, and start all over again. It's normal in business. It's risky, right? It's not. I never said business. I didn't say it's a get-rich scheme, right? If it's a get-rich scheme, I would have told you. It's something that requires time. It requires effort. There's a lot of challenges in it. It's just like marriage, right? But a lot of people still do it.
Right. Thank you.
Um, okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So I don't know, where can we get the cap? I like this cap. I don't know. I've just been admiring since.
You can get it at any store.
Are you Nigerian? Because it doesn't seem like you're Nigeria.
What's the particular name?
Yeah, currently I'm in Nigeria. Currently, yes, I am in Nigeria.
okay. So once a very big thank you, sir. Thank you for creating time from your busy schedule to be with us this morning, and also to help us to get more information on how to effectively start businesses and scale, using the most effective approach that would be, of course, cost effective, without having to spend a whole lot of hours and money on things that we eventually might not pull through on the first trial or the first few trials. So say a very big thank you. I actually also do have a question, but in fact, some questions, but maybe that will be privately. But I'd like to ask one. How best, on their behalf, I'd like to ask one. What's the best means of pulling traction and growing globally if you're running an IT, a tech company? For example, if it's like app related, I'm asking on behalf of them because some of them have businesses that are tech driven. So question is, I thought they would have asked this. Question is, what is the best way to, well, you mentioned the example of you going on the Facebook group to discuss briefly with them. But are there tools, tools that they could utilize to pull some more traffic and build on to pull in more traction for a tech-related business?
It depends on exactly. I wouldn't want to generalize because it depends on what exactly they're building. It's. I wouldn't want to just say there's a particular tool, but I usually see a couple of tools like they can use. For example, they can use things like constant MailChimp, right? Or constant content. The reason why you use that, you use that is to create a mailing list. more like a newsletter platform where you can constantly reach out to your target customers. Staying in touch with them is very important. I always realize that whenever I send an email to my customers, I experience a very huge a surge of traffic the next day, or within that week. So constantly communication with your customers, creating content that you reach out to them, it's always good. And then have you ever noticed that there's some platforms that they're constantly sending you promotional, materials and messages? It's just a way to make you constantly, remember that they exist and that they miss you or something. Also, try and make sure that your social media pages are very active, So maybe there are so many social media, how I call it, scheduling tools like Hootsuite, Postchrome. You can use them as a way to constantly schedule emails across all your platforms. You can post simultaneously on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at the same time, same content. And so just try as much as possible, not only to focus on acquiring the customers, but to also, retain them, to also, just as a way of keeping them on the platform. Because I found that it's easier to sell your product to existing customers than to sell to a new customer altogether. And it's still the same amount of money, that you make from them, but you spend less money to, to reach them because, you already, know them. So, but if you're starting out, I'll just say, just focus on making the product better. Just focus on two things: your product and your customers. Focus on making the product better, and making sure that your customers don't leave. And then when a customer drops off, you always try to reach out to that customer to know why. Just like I don't know how many of you Christians here, but there's a part in the Bible that said there was this good shepherd that had one of his sheep, missing, and he left all his flock just to look for that particular sheep and get the sheep back. So that's how you should be as an entrepreneur. Once a customer drops off, make sure you go after that customer to understand exactly why they left you, so that it doesn't happen again. At least make sure that you know what made them leave. Even if you don't know how to get them back, but at least you know what made them leave, and you're constantly trying to make sure that other people don't leave that same way. So make sure that you're focused on customer retention so much, and that you're focused on improving your product, no matter how much or no matter how little. Gradually improve your product every day, and and it's just like I always say, just provide value and money will come. It's just a ripple effect. It's definitely happening.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, sir. Very many thanks from here and from the Startup Grind team, Enugu State, and also the Startup Grind team Global. We are really very grateful for having you, for you creating our time to be with us, and also giving thanks on behalf of the cohorts from the University of Nigeria. It's quite been very, very well insightful. We know how busy it could get for entrepreneurs, and we know how busy you would be. So we're saying thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome, and you guys have a very good day.
All right, that was great having you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
So to all cohorts here,
bye.
Okay, bye, sir. So to everyone here, we say thank you for participating, for coming on to the session. We want to give special recognition to the CEO and founder of Cruising Global Resources, who is an alumnus of the Kickstart program 2019, a year after we were done. So we say hi to him. So again, we are saying many thanks to our cohorts who are here. We have lower numbers today for whatever reason. However, we have one of my bosses from Startup Grind headquarters, Silicon Valley, United States. He will be our guest speaker for this afternoon. It's going to be so super fly. I assure you, that one is going to be so good. So just hop on to the call on time, and then the rest you decide for yourself. So cheers, everyone. Have a beautiful day for the rest of the day, and then see you by 4 p.m. Bye bye.
Sir, hold on. Can we practice?
Oh, okay. Maybe I would create a program. Don't worry, we'll get to do it after this event.
Okay.
All right. All right, thanks, guys. See you by 2. See you by 4 o'clock. Right?
Okay, bye.
Okay, take care.
Okay, bye.